Just taking a look at this rig of Devil to give a bit of feedback to Pert. So there's a few problems with it, and I figured that it would be easier to show off in a video form exactly what the issues are. Most of them, the first pivot points are placed on things, which could be a bit of a problem because it might mean going back to the widgets. That's why we keep the widget file before you press the rig button. So right, that's the mouth. That's looking good. It's not a problem. Although actually, I would hesitate to say that maybe that should perhaps be pivoting from about this position here, but that's not the worst one. Actually, if I grab the head control, this one was a little bit of a problem. It's pivoting from inside the head. That's very odd, because if you pivot your head, I mean really it should be at the top of the neck. So that's going to create some very strange things happening there. I mean, when we turn like that, his neck is no longer attached to the bottom of his head, it's kind of sliding to the side of his head. That's very odd. Then down in the chest, not quite as bad, but still a bit of a problem. The pivot for his clavicle is inside his, it's kind of lined up with the nipple, which is very odd. Really should be about there, to be honest. And it kind of means that when he pulls his shoulder down, he's really stretching quite badly. The other one, this is very odd. This should really be in here, over by his shoulder, because if you turn this up, arm looks pretty awful. I think this looks like it's in the right place, but we might need to put a bit of time into getting a deformer in there. We can worry about that a bit further down the line. I was playing around with the mouth, and I think maybe we could just model the teeth in a little bit on the inside, because this is cool. I love the way that we can pull this out and get that shape, but unfortunately the teeth go through the mouth. So we'll probably just have to model the bottom of the teeth line back in a little bit so that that sort of thing doesn't have a problem. And what you notice as well is that some of this stuff, as that's being pulled up, we're getting, it shouldn't be weighted all the way up here. This needs to have no influence from this section. So there's a few skinning issues to look at, but I guess we're going to have to go back and look at the pivot points first, and I'm kind of hoping that you've kept the widget file from before the setup machine rigging was automatically done, because then we can move the widgets around a little bit and reapply it. Another thing I noticed actually was that the eyes are kind of pointing in opposite directions. I know you had nothing to go on because we haven't actually got pupils in there for some reason at the moment, but the eyes are pointing in opposite directions, and that's going to be very difficult to work with when you get the character to look at something. So it would probably be better if in the widget stage those eyes were lined up facing forwards. Another thing I noticed was that in here, the top control we'd actually want to grab the hair is hidden, is really small. That's the control we would want to first be grabbing, and I also noticed that it's moving some points around that it shouldn't be, so some skinning issues to look at there. So I mean, that would actually want to be the biggest control. That would want to be big enough to extend outside of the hair, and we'd want to be able to actually see that. Then I guess I'm just assuming that there must actually be some control somewhere for keeping that relative to the head, because at the moment what happens when you turn the head, the hair is relative to the world, which could be useful in certain circumstances, but I think it's going to be problematic in most situations. So it would be good if that didn't stay relative to the world. I mean, that needs to be parented to the head, and when the head turns, it needs to go with it most of the time. But to have the toggle would be useful. There's probably a few skinning issues to look at as well, but I think for now that's more than enough to take a look at, so I'll leave it at that.